Welcome to a very special adventure into the wonderful world of mystic Christianity, the secret gospel of Jesus of Nazareth. Many people ask about the meaning of secret, and we must remember that Jesus said to his disciples when they came up and asked him why he spoke in parable, he said, "It is given to you to understand, but it is not given to them." So after the 3rd century, the early bishops decided that the secret teachings of Christianity would not be given to the masses. This is one of those lost series that comes from the archives of the Roman Vatican. But its most important contribution to mankind is to help him to understand how he can transform himself from human to divine. I'm your hostess, Elizabeth MacDonald Burrows. Welcome to another one in our adventure series into mystic Christianity. Some people ask me, why can't we just get on with the scriptures? Why do we have to have so much discourse between them? And I realize the impatience of our Western world to want to know what's written, and that we don't want to spend the kind of time in listening to the discourses that cover why he taught the way he did. However, we must come to understand that if we do not understand the reason why he taught the way he did, and the true meaning, or at least as true as we can interpret, then we are not apt to put his practices together. I am a Christian mystic, and of course that means that I have sought the inner path to God through the world that is within me, through the development and raising of the indwelling Christ. My journey began particularly in 1970, when Jesus first appeared to me. And there's rather an interesting story that precludes that. There was a young woman that wanted me to go to listen to an evangelist, and I was not so inclined to do so. She also asked me if I had a Bible, and I said no, and I'm not going to buy one, because if God wanted me to have a Bible, he would give me one. Anyway, somehow she managed to convince me to go to listen to the evangelist. Right in the middle of his talk, and there were about 100 people there, he stopped and he looked at me and he said, "Young lady, do you have a Bible?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Does anyone in this congregation have a Bible to give to this young woman, because she's going to need it?" So I felt that God had brought me the Bible and I was supposed to read it. And I was, in Matthew, involved certainly deeply into the life of Jesus. And I can remember the moment, sitting in front of a vanity table, and I guess that's a very good name for them in some ways, brushing my hair, and I was reading Matthew, when the scripture just hit me like a bolt of lightning, when Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul. Upon this is the first and greatest commandment." And I thought, I have not sought truly for God, that I must put every effort that I had to obeying the teachings of Jesus. You see, we spend a lot of time in discoursing on what he says. We can take the Bible and we can hand it to 150 billion people, and we will have 150 billion variations. Because each person understands truth according to their level of understanding. And we're not talking about intelligent level. We're talking about what we've been trained since we were children, what we've been taught in churches, the following of our heart to those phrases and things that we have taken, shall we say, that are common to all people. But those phrases that we've repeated again and again without really thinking about them. So we've brought ourselves into the position of modern world to where we're spending a lot of time looking for our differences and the difference in our interpretation of the scriptures. And for this reason, we have much variance, and we have dissension and arguments and hatred and anger. And this wasn't the reason that Jesus died. He really died to bring us all together and to seek for our commonality. So that is why I have chosen and spent my life, and I really mean my life, traveling to far ends of the world to find the truth of Jesus. And I myself renounced a personal life just a few months after he first appeared to me. I renounced my personal life to give my life to mankind. It was during that period that I was sent an angelic being to teach me in the ways of the Christian mysteries. So I was led to manuscripts that most people do not even know exist. I was led to countries where Jesus had lived, where he had dwelled, where he had traveled. For in no other way could I understand this Master if I myself had not made the same journey. And when Jesus appeared to me the first time, he had brought me a pair of boots. They were very, very large, and I didn't fully understand that meaning. But I do now, that those who really want to come into oneness with Jesus must walk in his footsteps. And his first commandment was for us to love God. So I think if we would do this, we would lose our differences, and that's what is essential and important. So I have sought to spend my life in bringing to you the secret teachings, teachings that have been found in the musty corridors that no one has paid any attention to. And should we throw them away because they're not listed or not included into the Bible? I don't think so. Why? Because it doesn't talk about Jesus as a little boy. It doesn't tell where he was between the ages of 3 and 4 and 12. And it doesn't tell where he was between 12 and 13 and 19. It doesn't tell where he was until he was 33 years old. So this means our Bible does not include the whole of Jesus' life. It includes the essential parts. It includes the part that if we live them, we'll be better people because of it. Therein is the important thing. But we have come to that point of where we have developed educated minds, where we can read and write and understand science. And this has come about where mass consciousness has been able to read and write only in the last 100 years. And we cannot any longer take, for instance, the beasts and dragons of St. John's Apocalypse as a reality. We have to realize their anthropos, symbolic meanings, allegorical, because those creatures, many of them, have never existed. They do not exist and will not exist. So we're looking now for a new and deeper understanding. And we know also that the world no longer is the center of the universe, and that we're just part of 150 billion galaxies. So we need to do what Jesus told us, and that is to seek the path to oneness with God. And this path of oneness can only be reached by the raising of that divine nature in us. And that's what this course is all about, trying to give you a process by which you can raise that divine spark and to explain to you why he taught the secret gospel. You see, the secret gospel, I am certain, to many is a stunning shock. They're going to be surprised that he taught health and nutrition, internal cleanliness, as well as communion with the angels, or utilizing those powerful forces of natural and cosmic law that we looked at in our last episode. So let us not cast things aside too quickly, realizing that there are many, many missing pieces, and a child and a man as great as Jesus. It had to be recorded someplace. That's what I always told myself as I went on my long search for the real Jesus, is that someone like that, it is recorded somewhere, someplace. And the only way I will find it is to be able to step beyond the boundaries and limitation which the world has imposed upon me. I must go with an open mind to the far ends of the earth, if necessary, to find those missing pieces. And that is what I did. For almost 20 years, I spent an intensity of search unlike any theologian has ever experienced in finding the real Jesus, without limitation, without restriction. Many times Jesus has appeared to me, and I have been sent the guiding hands of angels and archangels to guide me in the path of mystic Christianity and the path of righteousness, and to train me to be a better person. And I hope that I am because of it. But I know this world of communication between man and the world of angels is nothing more than a breath away, and that it is an integral part of our future world. So with your open minds and your open hearts, we're going to go now certainly to the gospel of peace. And we're going to look also at Scripture, just to show you the variance of interpretation. And I've picked one that probably has to do somewhat with the resurrection. I picked it really from John, when we can just take, I just want to give you an example of fundamental and traditional as opposed to mystic understanding. And you will see that we can take the same scriptures all the way through the Bible, and that it's a matter of interpretation. So John talks about, this is right after the horses, the 4 horses of the apocalypse, and he is talking, he said, I looked, let's see, I think, I beheld he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell upon the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken in a mighty wind. And the heavens departed as a scroll when it were rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of earth, and great men, and rich men, and chief captains, and mighty men, and every bondsman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains of rock, fall on us, hide us from the face of him that sitteth upon the throne. And as you know, for most part, the apocalypse has forever been something which is going to occur outside, rather than in the inner battle of human to divine. But what would happen if, when the 6th seal means when the seal of the divine nature in us has been opened? Remember, we are in the 6th progressive cycle of progressive cycle of evolution. We are human, and on the 6th day came man. So we talked about the fact that the divine nature and man living in the 6th becomes basically not the real sign of the beast, but 666, the 2 selves which are enmeshed in the 6th phase of human progression. And that the 7th would be that of when human becomes divine. So here we are, he had opened the 6th seal. That means that that world that enters us into that 7th, which will cause our transformation, has been opened. And I'm not saying it's been opened out there, I'm saying it has been opened in John. And he is bringing this forth for us to understand. And he said there was a great earthquake. And believe me, when the union of human and divine comes about, and it will, there is an earthquake unlike anything you have ever experienced, because it shakes everything loose in us, every false ideology, every dream and desire and aspiration that is of false bottom, meaning something which is impossible for us to achieve at the time that this happens. These are false ideals and wishes and desires and dreams that we have. It's kind of like dreaming that we're going to win the lottery. And so all this is shaken loose in us when that seal is opened that separates us from our immortal self, from that sacred place which harbors the Ark of the Covenant and the law of God and the throne of God. All that is inside of us. And so the sun became black as sackcloth. And the sun has always symbolized in the Christian mysteries that of a spiritual transformation, that of the human world. So this means that because of our spiritual opening, our world with wars and crime and hatred and rape and murder will be to us then like wearing a suit of sackcloth rather, and the moon became as blood. And the moon has always symbolized in the mystic Christianity that of the mind. And so as the moon becomes as blood, it means the moon, all those things that we thought, suddenly we are filled with things that we have never known or understood. And everything that we believed in is shaken loose. This doesn't mean that it's wrong, but we will reevaluate our lives. We will look at our physical world and our soul and our mind, because we must purify the physical world, purify the mind, and purify the soul. And that's why Jesus taught in the secret gospel, first, the purification of the body. Second, the communion with the angels, which would purify the soul. And of course, amongst this was the purification of the mind. And stars from heaven fell unto the earth. False aspirations and false desires, suddenly they don't exist in our heavenly self. And what we're saying about this is certainly that there comes that time when we perceive that earth is temporal. We are passing through it, and that nothing we own or possess belongs to us. Not even being a president of the United States or the head of a corporation. We can't take these things with us. The only thing we can take with us is what we are, our mind and our body and our soul. We can't take the body, sorry about that. But and so it said the stars of heaven fell from earth, those false aspirations and desires and things. When, like a tree casteth her untimely figs, meaning everything impure is thrown back onto the earth. It is cast out of us, to be cast out of us, because we can never have peace as long as we can't get along with one another. And when the heavens departed as a scroll, meaning just like the Ark of the Covenant, the curtains that covered the temple, the room, the Holy of the Holies of Moses, just like they're open. And in here, the Ark of the Covenant, the throne of God within our soul. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Every idea, every concept, everything is shaken loose. And it talks about it didn't make any difference whether we were wealthy or had great minds or whether we were chiefs or whatever. We all want to hide in those days, and we cannot find any place to hide because, of course, the scroll has been opened inside of us. Where can we go that we can hide from ourselves? There is a marvelous phenomena that takes place with this. And that is, for the first time, you will truly know yourself. You will know the greatness that you will be one day. You will know and understand why all the things that happened to you have happened. You will never fear death. You will never fear loneliness, because you will never be lonely again. So that's just a little bit of St. John's Revelation, just to show you the difference between what we might classify a traditional interpretation, what other people have to go through someplace out there, to what it really means by mystical Christianity, to this path that is within us. We left off in the nutritional part. We'll be on that, I'm quite certain, for a couple of weeks. He said, remember, I tell you truly, you are one with the earthly mother. She is in you, you are in her, of her you were born, and her do you live. Unto her shall you return again. And we covered that little segment last week. And remember, we stopped long enough to take a look at the wonder of our earthly mother and why Jesus referred to earth as his earthly mother and heard his prayer to her. I tell you truly, should you keep but one only of all these laws, should you harm but one only of all your body members, you shall be utterly lost in grievous sickness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. If we do not abide by the laws of nature, and we're going to have to lay aside the scriptures pretty soon, and we're going to have to go to an explanation to show you why, if you disobey one of the laws of our earthly mother, why we in turn have old age, sickness, and death. Oh, I'm not going to promise you that you're not going to get old. I'm not going to promise you that you'll never get sick, because the pollution that we have in our world today and the stress we have did not exist in Jesus' time. I say to you, unless you follow the laws of your mother, you can in no wise escape death. And he who clings to the laws of his mother, to him shall his mother cling also. She shall heal all his plagues, and he shall never become sick. She gives him long life and protects him from all afflictions, from fire, from water, and from the bite of venomous serpents. And that's about where we left off last week. I tell you truly, very great is her love, greater than the greatest mountains and deeper than the deepest seas. And those who love their mother, she never deserts them. As a hen protects her chicken, as a lioness her cubs, as a mother her newborn babe, so does the earthly mother protect the Son of Man from all dangers and all evil. And remember now, as we talked about last week, our earthly mother is a living thing, this earth upon which we live. And although she does not have a brain to think, she operates by the instinctive, or shall I say reflective, law of God, which moves through her. I tell you truly, great is her love. Evils and dangers innumerable lie in wait for the sons of men. Beelzebub, the prince of all devils, the source of every plague, and taking upon him a pleasing raiment, he tempts and entices the Son of men. Riches does he promise, and power, and splendid palaces, and garments of gold and silver, and a multitude of service. He promises renown and glory and fornication and lustfulness, gluttony and wine-bibbing, riotous living and slothfulness, and the idle days, and he entices everyone to that which their heart is inclined. And you must remember that, let's go over this one single line again, because Satan, and we have gone over this before, Satan, as it has been believed in traditional Christianity, does not exist. Satan is a term that comes from that part of us which destroys life. We are a lower nature, we are a higher nature, and Paul speaks of this certainly in the scriptures here. I'm not going to read them to you at the moment, but I will mention them to you. That when Paul comes, I think I have them, I think I have it marked here so that it will be easy. He said, he's talking about in Corinthians. So if you go to Corinthians, Corinthians 1, chapter 15, I think 14 and 15, I think you'll find that Paul speaks very openly about the fact that we have a lesser nature and we have a higher. We have a spiritual nature and we have one that is born of matter. And so he says here that Beelzebub, the prince of all devils, the source of every evil, lies in wait in the body of all the sons of man. So he has specifically said that this is that part of us, that it is in us, not somewhere out there, not some force that is trying to make us to do things that we don't want to do, but that it is in us. And that in us it causes us, it's born from our journey through the world of matter. And it therefore leads us into temptation in the sense of all of our weaknesses. I use this as a very small example, but if we eat chocolate cake and we eat a piece of chocolate cake every day, pretty soon we cannot hardly live a day without a piece of chocolate cake. It isn't some force out there that makes us want that chocolate cake. So now we decide that we don't want to eat the chocolate cake anymore, but something drives us to eat it every day, some type of addictive pattern in us. And that's because we've trained our entire mind and every cell in our body to have that need, that enticement. So it leads us into this path again and again. But this is not a deity, not a being other than our own lower nature. And we follow the way of corporeal. We want to work and earn money, and we want nice homes and nice cars, and this is all of the way of corporeal. So that's why he's saying, and he entices everyone by that to which their heart is most inclined. And in the day that the sons of men have already become slaves of all the vanities and abominations, then in payment thereof he snatches from the Son of Men all those things which the earthly mother gives so abundantly. And the breath of the Son of Man becomes short and stifled, and his bones become hard and knotted, and his eyes grow dim till the dark night shrouds them, and his ears stop up like the silence of the grave, and at last of all shall the erring Son of Man lose life. For he kept not the laws of his mother, and added sin to sin. Therefore are taken from him all the gifts of the earthly mother, breath, blood, bones, flesh, eyes, ears, and after all else, the life, which the earthly mother crowned his body. But if the erring son be sorry for his sins and undo them, and return again to his earthly mother, and if he do his earthly mother's laws and free himself from Satan's clutches resisting his temptation, then does the earthly mother receive again her erring son with love and sends him her angels that they might serve him. I remember from last week that the angels of the earthly mother were the sun, the water, the air, the topsoil, the food that grows on the surface, and also the joy that we get from the beauties and health that surrounds us. And I do say health because how wondrous is the variety of fruit that is available to us today, and the remarkable foods that we've learned to grow and to help nature in taking care of these children that live upon her. I tell you truly, when the Son of Man resists Satan that dwells in him and does not his will, in the same hour are found the mothers, angels there, that they may serve him with all their power and free utterly the sons of man from the power of Satan. And that's from illness and old age and pain and fear, and all these things are what is relieved from us in this transformational change. For no man can serve two masters, for either he serves Beelzebub and his devils, or he serves our earthly mother in her angels. Either he serves death, or he serves life. And since life is very precious to us, we're going to have to look closely at the purification of our body. I tell you truly, happy are those that do the laws of life and wander not upon the paths of death. For in them the forces of life wax strong, and they escape the plagues of death. And all these are round about him. Listen to his words, for his words was with power, and he taught quite otherwise than the priest and the scribes. And at this point, I'm going to reach here and get a chart and try to help you to understand why Jesus taught this way. These may be things that we'd rather not hear. We would probably rather just skip right over and go on to the communions of the angels. But we will get with them very shortly, before too long. I like to call my little friend here Charlie. I look at him as kind of the ruler of cell life, because one of the first things that took place after I had been sent an angelic master from the high angelic kingdom to teach me in the ways of Jesus and the ways of the Christ, the ways of God, they began to work upon the purification of my human world. And that human world doesn't pertain only to the body itself, but it also pertains to the way we relate to others in our world, how we try to undo the things that we may have done wrong, and to learn new and better habits, a way of life that will bring us peace and happiness. So the purification of the physical is not all just the body, but it started with the body, started with what I ate. And so being the artist that I am, as we're all familiar with with my artwork by this time, this is about the best tree I could draw. I think we call it a palm tree. There might be a coconut up in it. I'm not really positive. But I've drawn a tree here because Jesus referred to all trees as my brother tree. And he's going to talk about this later as we commune with the angels. How we can go to a tree and sit in front of it, and by breathing in and recognizing that our tree is a living thing and coming to oneness with that tree, we can draw vitality and strength from that tree to help heal us, to regenerate us, and bring us a deeper appreciation of nature itself. So I've drawn a tree here because that kind of symbolizes green life. I've drawn grass because it's the oldest thing upon the earth. Grass just simply has been here long before creatures, I probably. Anyway, it's very, very old, and it has this tenacity to return again and again. We can do something to kind of kill off the grass, and given a proper period of time, the next thing you know, the grass spreads and it grows, virtually grows up again. So grass is here, but that's going to symbolize to us living food. Food that has not been cooked, but that which is in its natural state. And we have drawn over here, I like to kind of call him Charlie the tuna, because I always was fascinated with that ad in which Charlie the tuna was always trying to get caught so he could become a can of tuna, and he was never good enough. So we have here fish, and we have what is equated as beef. We also have chicken, the primordial things. I did not put Mr. Happy the clam on, and I won't draw him at the moment, but he also is usually in the picture. We have the sun, and we have the rain falling, and we have water flowing, because these are all essential to our health. Our body is about 70 to 80% water. So that means the cells that are here in the human ocean are actually in a human ocean. There's really a great deal of space between them. And if we could see ourselves without our, I don't know that we'd call it a gravity force, but that which kind of holds us intact as a human embodiment, if we could see this, we'd probably look like a bottle with water sloshing around inside of it. Because our body being, and I say 70 to 80 because there has been disagreement on exactly how much water we are. the cell life itself is, of course, a minute family, and I didn't draw the cells, and I should have drawn us at least 2 cells. We'll just turn this around because I probably will be quicker if I can turn it around. We're going to draw 2 cells, and one of them is going to be the cell of a purified body, and the other one is going to represent the cells of the impure body. So I look at each individual cell as kind of being a family, and that, like all families or cities and that, they must learn to work together. And when a cell becomes distorted by contamination, it can't work as well. There we now have 2 cells, and that should help us in our analogy here. We don't seem to realize that outside world is a reflection of us inside. Our wars and everything are a reflection of the fact that we have not yet trained ourselves to love, that we have not purified our mind to accept the higher idealism, and in our hunt for God, of course, and coming into consciousness with God, we're going to learn that He doesn't prescribe war, that only peace and love, and how much He loves all His children. And we must learn to love His children as He loves them. So here we have then Charlie. This is Charlie the tuna, but this is Charlie, the ruler of cell life. He has within him these little circles represent cells kind of floating in his body. And that these are the cells. These are cells by a body which has not been obedient to the earthly mother, which has violated natural and cosmic law. And this is more the cell that has come forward in a purified body. Because as Jesus said, it's never too late to change, that we can turn away from the ways that draw us into sickness and suffering, and turn back toward our earthly mother. Even in these days, we may not be able to stamp out pollution, but we can learn to meditate and to still our minds and to protect our cerebral spinal system. We can learn to eat more natural foods so that we can have a healthier life. We may not be able to stamp out all the ills that we have today, but we can do a lot to extend our life and to have quality life while we extend it. And so Jesus is going to teach, when we go into the communions with the angels, He is going to teach that we can commune with the Son, and that the Son itself is a marvelous healer. We say, how can the sun be a healer when we go out and we get sunburned, and then our skin begins to peel off and we itch, and some people have allergies and it builds up cancerous looking skin, so they can't be exposed to the sun. It was not designed that way. God designed our bodies to absorb sunlight. And that sunlight and solar energy would be an integral part of our life in order to make us energetic, in order to have better health. But we, through the centuries, not just in modern time, it started centuries and centuries ago, we through the centuries have gradually created more and more impure diets. And as a result, we have built up a genetic structure that is filled with many weaknesses. And these weaknesses may come out when we are exposed to the sun. But it wasn't that way originally. And so people still need light, and if they are allergic to the sun, they should at least still get out in it a little while, maybe with long sleeves and a sun hat. But they need to get out where the light can regenerate and restore. We spend our lives behind closed doors in offices, automobiles. We do not get to enjoy the forces of our earthly mother. And we'll be talking more about this as we take up each one of the communions with the earthly mother. So the sun is going to be one of the things that even to this day is the best healer of viruses that exist. If we can get out into the sun with a virus condition and to become one with the sun and to bring the radiation of the sun into our lungs and then allow it to flow clear through our body. And we can do this for up to 30 minutes. It is unlikely you'll have much of a virus the next day if you can't execute this perfectly. And again, we're back to this statement. I can teach you many things, but I cannot get in your body and have you do them. You must compel yourself to do them. And you will never learn how perfect these things are if you do not try them. You will never know that you and your brother tree can link in consciousness, that he will send you his vital force, unless you approach him as Jesus did, our brother, the tree. You will never learn that the sun can help to heal you unless you approach it and learn to make that communion with the sun. And why Jesus taught natural and cosmic love? Well, it had to be. They did not have the medications that we have in today's world. Neither did they, of course, have the pollution and stress, but they didn't have the medication, the science and technology that we have in our modern world. So these people had to come to be healed that had many grievous illnesses through the natural way. And so all of Jesus' healing was not just just not laying of the hands, but to take these people out to the rivers and the stream and teach them once again the return to the earthly mother, to nature. So we're going to look at living food and versus and proper sunlight, and of course, how many of us drink 6 to 8 glasses of water a day? I do, but I mean, how many people do? When we need this, the body, since our body is 70–80% water, it has a tendency to somewhat dehydrate. But at the same time, we need to flush all the organs. Remember, our lungs, our heart, our intestines, our brain, all of these are comprised of cells too. And so that whatever Charlie has here in the exterior of his body as cell life also exists within him, in the lungs and brain and the various organs of the body. So by drinking water, we actually flush the toxins that accumulate in the body. We help to flush them out and to keep the body cleaner. We don't think anything of taking a bath every day or a shower every morning, but we don't think about drinking water. So what have we accomplished if by just cleaning ourselves in a shower every morning, when we have fill it up with bacon, and let's see, we have fried bacon, we have fried eggs, we have butter on our toast, we may have cereal with I think someone told me today that there are some of the cereal that's being given to children that have 14 teaspoons of sugar in it. So they take cold cereal with a little bit of milk and put some sugar on it. And this is considered, and not to count the coffee, the lattes and all. All this is put in the body. And of what value to us when we clean the outside and we're not cleaning the inside. And I'm not telling you that you have to give up all these things you really enjoy. No one has ever been able to step across that precipice and do everything instantaneously. But I am simply telling you that we need to drink water. It's going to help us to have more health and more energy. Just simply, and I have to stop here for a moment because, yes, I agree if there's a thought out there about water, the impurity of the water as it flows through the tap in your kitchen. I don't use tap water for drinking. For our students, we have fresh spring water. I also have water filters on the major sinks so that not in bathing, but certainly in relationship to what we drink, so that the water that I drink doesn't have the impurities that comes from the faucets. But we need to drink this water. We also need to swim. And I know our lakes and ponds are often polluted too. But it's a wonderful, wonderful exercise. And we don't do so well in the swimming pools with all the chlorine either. So we have a lot of complications in today's world. But Angel of Water is one of the tools that we have. And here's a cell, as we talked about. The lower or second cell here is a cell from the impure body filled with toxins. These toxins are conducive to bringing us diseases. I don't know how many of you know that, for instance, one charcoal broiled steak does the damage to the human body that 24 packages of cigarettes does. And why is this? We're talking about charcoal broil. We're not talking about the steak. If there are many other ways. There's electric grill. There's wood chip grill. There's ways that this meat can be grilled other than on charcoal. But the chemicals that's in the charcoal that goes up through the charcoal and into the steak. 24 packages of cigarettes. So that's a lot of damage with one single steak. And also we may take one steak and it has 7 items in it that are disease conducive. And so 7 different toxins. And I'm sorry, off of the top of my head, I don't have the name of those toxins with me. But anyway, all this brings about a deterioration. And for instance, we love clams and shrimp, and yet they clean up the ocean bed. They're there so that the fish, like salmon and so on, has better water to swim in. And we eat the crab and the shrimp, but we would never think of going out and eating a vulture or a seagull, because we know they're scavengers. But so are clams and shrimp. So it's always recommended for a healthier body that the crustaceans, that we do away with them almost first. And the second to that is pork, because pork is also I was raised on a farm, and I know the impurities. A pig will just eat anything. And I realize they're special fed now to prepare them to go to the market, and perhaps they're better. But still in all, trichinosis is a disease that is found most commonly in pork if it is not well cooked. And so it is recommended that a person, first in the purity of their diet, remain with fish and perhaps some red meat and some chicken. But remember, you will become what you eat. And Jesus teaches this. We're going to hear this as we go on into his teaching on health and nutrition next week, when he tells us that we become what we eat. So therefore, it means that if we eat tremendously heavy, just potatoes and gravy and meat, that the vibrational frequency of our organovegetative body is going to be so dense that the light, which wants so much to dwell with us, cannot reach us, and causes us to have more animosity, more hatred, more anger, that we'll have more peace if we change our diet and purify it. And you can see that there. If we have, for instance, a thought. Let's take a thought. And I haven't drawn a brain, and I won't do that at the moment, but a thought process. If our brain is filled with impurities, all these little cells are filled with toxins from the things that we eat, how can a thought possibly function through this brain? Because the brain is an instrument. It is not us. It's just an instrument that the mind and consciousness uses. So it expresses itself through this. And so imagine what might happen to our children if we were able to convince them to get off of the food that they eat, the candy bars, the popcorn, the chips, the French fries, the burgers, and eat a healthy natural diet with lots of green leafy vegetables, rice and grains, and lessen the candy, get away from the sugar sweetened. Sugar is a drug. If I get into sugar now, 1 teaspoon will give me a good night's sleep of about 13 hours. So it's been a long time since I have removed sugar from the diet, but it is a drug. And the older we get, the more we desire sweets. Why? Because we're started on them from the moment that we start to walk. We're given sweets. And it grows as it's addictive, and we get more and more and more. And as we get older and older, the toxins build up, and the brain becomes even more inoperative. As a result, we have such terrible senility. It is a contributing factor to Alzheimer's. I'm not saying it's the cause of, but it's a contributing factor to Alzheimer's disease. And all of us want to have clear minds and to be able to think. I have never met a great person who had raised that great light in them, who had these diseases, and who could not think, and who were not brilliant, and who didn't live a quality life up to the end of their life. And it's so easy to change and to have fresh fruit juice instead of pop, and to drink water, to eat fresh fruit. If we did nothing else and just to improve our diets, that alone is a big step for humanity as a whole. And so our young, if we were to get them on a semi-good diet, well, I think and believe really that we could raise the IQ of our young people from what it is today to genius level, and that one of the inhibitors of raising our young to this ability is because of the diet that they eat. And we let them get away with it. We let them eat what they want. It's just easier than fighting with them and starting them on their spinach when they're 4 months old, 3 or 4 months old. And it isn't just the ability to think. Because the brain, as it fills with toxins and begins to get older, along with the rest of the body, it becomes harder and harder to use it. Well, pain is the same thing. When we have an impure cell, when a pain impulse hits it, everything slows down and is sluggish, so that pain is more intense. The person with a purified cell is going to heal faster. They're not going to feel pain as much. They're going to be able to think better. These are all the things that Jesus is going to talk about in these chapters of communion with the angels of the earthly mother. As we go to chapter 2, he begins to write upon the unwritten law. And though the sun was now set, they departed not from their homes. They sat around about Jesus and asked him, Master, which are the laws of life? Rest with us a while longer and teach us. We would listen to your teaching that we may be healed and become righteous. And Jesus sat down in their midst and said, I tell you truly, none can be happy except he do the law. And the people answered, We do all the laws of Moses, our lawgiver, even as they are written in the Holy Scriptures. And Jesus answered and said, Seek not the law in your Scriptures, for law is life, whereas the Scripture is dead. I tell you truly, Moses received not his laws from God in writing, but through the living Word. The law is a living Word of a living God, to living prophets for living men. In everything that is life is the law written. You find it in the grass, in the trees, in the river, in the mountains, in the birds of heaven, in the fishes of the sea. But seek it chiefly in yourself. Be with us next week. Thank you for joining us on this very special journey into the world of mystic Christianity. This program was sponsored by Christ Church of the Holy Chalice, an organization that is dedicated to the preservation of the Christian mysteries. It is both a mystery school and a church. I am certain that you will have questions, and please feel free to call us at area code 206-362-4134. That is area code 206 362-4134. Or join us on our website, www.mysteryschool, that's one word, mysteryschool.org. The God in me bows to the God in you. And may heaven walk with you all week.